Okay, welcome, Steve. Nice to see you again. Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Tingson is also here. Great. Right, everyone joining in, welcome. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Thriving Dentist expert panel. At Thriving Dentist, we are dedicated to helping dental professionals build practices that are profitable, less insurance dependent, and deeply fulfilling. Now, tonight's session, what top dental practice owners do differently now and why the old playbook is costing your staff, addresses one of the top crises in dentistry today, the talent war. I'm your host, Dan Adisha, and we are going to spend the next hour moving from the old playbook of authority to the new playbook of influence. Now, a couple of housekeeping notes just to help you make the most of this hour. First, yes, we are recording. You will receive a replay link after the event in your email so that you can rewatch and share with your partners. However, don't let that make you passive. The real value is happening right here, right now, live. To make the best use of your time, engage with us. Use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen for specific questions you want me to ask the panelists, or you can use the chat to share your thoughts with your colleagues here. I'll have my eye on both the feeds and will do my best to weave your questions into the conversation as we go along, or else we'll tackle them during the Q&A session closer to the middle of the event. So now, this event is made possible by our sponsor, Echo Marketing, founded by Naren Arulraja, the very same co-host of the Thriving Dentist podcast, along with Gary Takas. Now, for nearly 20 years, Echo has been one of the most trusted digital marketing organizations in healthcare, actively supporting over 500 practices across the US and Canada. They specialize in helping you stay visible in an increasingly crowded market. And as a thank you for joining us tonight, they are offering a complimentary one-on-one marketing strategy meeting. So if your practice feels constantly busy, but profit isn't really moving, this is your chance to uncover whether your marketing is attracting the right demand or adding to the bottlenecks that keeps you stuck. There are only 10 spots available for this event, so be sure to reserve yours now. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at some of the key discussion points we are going to cover tonight. First off, we are going to dismantle the leadership hangover. We're going to explore why what worked in 2015 is failing you now, and how to move from being an authority to being an influence. And also, we're going to look at how to spot the turnover trap before your best staff member hands in their notice. By the end of the hour, you won't just have a new perspective, you'll have a new leadership identity that'll attract and retain great people. To help us navigate this, we have a powerhouse panel. Let's meet them. First up, we have Tracy Stewart. Tracy is the owner and director of NBS Training, and she helps dental owners break growth stalling patterns so that they can build high-performing cultures that actually last. Tracy, welcome to the panel.
Okay.
And next up, we have Sandy Baird. She's a practice coach with over 30 years of experience, and she helps dental teams implement results-driven solutions so that they can enjoy higher rewards with far less stress. Sandy, great to have you back on the panel.
Thanks, Don. It's great to be back.
Absolutely. And then joining us is also Amina Basil. She's a dental industry expert with a background in accounting, and she helps practices pinpoint exactly where growth is being missed so that they can reach peak hygiene performance and profitability. Amina, great to have you on the panel.
Thanks so much for having me, Don. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pleasure's ours, Amina. Now, let's get into our conversation here. Right. My first question is to you, Sandy. Let's do a bit of a diagnosis over here. What changed most in team expectations since 2015 that still catches practice owners off guard when they try leading today's staff the old way? Over to you, Sandy.
Well, simply put, Don, our culture has changed, as it hasn't changed just a little bit. It's changed a lot. And there are
Mm,
several reasons why. And this change in culture, what it's done is it has changed the expectations of your employees. For
mm,
instance, lifestyle priority is very different now. Priority is on balance, on health, both mental and physical health. It's not on working
mm,
yourself to death. It's not on giving up family events to go to work. It's no longer that way. Now it is life balance. That's the most important balance in work with family and faith and exercise. Also, there's been a big change in parenting techniques.
parenting.
Parenting now is more collaborative and it's more
Okay.
about communication instead of authority. So these people who are in the workforce now expect to be in a work environment that's collaborative and communicative and not authoritative. And
Mm,
so it's all been magnified by two things. COVID, the Great Resignation showed we there are more options. You don't have to stay in a job you hate. There are lots of options out there, and life is too precious. I think COVID taught us all that. Life is just too precious to work in a place and spend that much time in your life in a place that you hate or don't like or feel demeaned. Also, technology. This is huge because now your employees can see what other practices are doing, all the fun thing other practices can do. They can see what the salaries should be based on how much experience they have, down to where they live. They can see all kinds of reviews nowadays. Before I do a lot of interviewing and exit interviewing for
mhm,
personnel. And what they always do now is they don't look at the website, they look at the reviews. Before they think about applying anywhere, they're reading the reviews. They're looking
mm,
at the Instagram, Facebook. Is this a fun place to work? Is this a place people like to work? Is this a place patients like to go? And so
mm,
what's happened is now employees are just less tolerant of the old style leadership, of the top down leadership.
mm,
They want to be involved. They want to keep learning. They want to be, they expect to be trained, not want to be trained. They expect to be trained. They expect clarity. What do you want from me? They expect you to respect their personal time. Don't you dare schedule a team meeting during my lunch or on a Friday unless you have everybody's permission. It has changed, totally changed the expectations of our employees. And this has been coming on gradually, but COVID and technology and lifestyle changes have really made a huge difference. So basically, if your employees, since your employees' expectations have changed and your leadership hasn't, you're facing problems. That's why you're getting all this turnover.
absolutely. What an
Yeah.
incredible important point over there with I just took away life is too precious. That, we came to the realization of that during COVID, as you mentioned. And of course, now it's more visible and transparent thanks to technology.
It is.
Um,
And 10 years ago, people would say, what do I need to keep my job? Now, what employees are saying is this job worth giving this much time of my life to? It's
check. What a one.
such a big shift.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that. And I think this generation, we keep hearing the millennials and the Gen Zs, they're lazy or they don't want to work hard. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, Sandy. I think they're chasing meaningful work, not
That's
just work.
You're exactly right, Amina.
Yeah.
Exactly. They want a real purpose, strong purpose statement that makes them feel like they're making a difference and they're
Yeah.
there and they're growing.
Yeah.
What an amazing way to start this conversation. Absolutely appreciate that, Trey, Sandy, and Amina. Now, my next question is to you, Tracy. Where does an authority first. An authority first style first show up in a normal week with retention already at risk before the owner sees it.
First of all, coming back to something that Sandy said, it shows up before somebody actually even approaches your company, because whilst we're all looking at Google reviews from the patient, the team are actually checking out reviews to see if they even want to work with you. So if you haven't got, nice reviews on Indeed, Glassdoor, and all the other platforms, then people are not going to apply, or they're going to actually retract their application. And in the working day, whether it's the morning huddle, whether it's contributing in a team meeting, people just don't get involved. They go silent and they don't contribute. And the thing that we need to understand is it's what's going on within these people. So maybe somebody doesn't contribute in a team meeting, but what if that person contributed in a team setting when they were at school and they got teased for it? So it isn't a case that they don't want to bring something. There's an emotional hijack that's actually getting in the way. So when I go in and work with a team, we do some work around this, and we do some questionnaires to really understand these hijacks so that we can help people, we can support them, and, help them be more confident. And that can show up with dealing with a cancellation, following up a patient. It might be a case that you've got to follow up a patient who hasn't booked in for their treatment plan. And, as a team member, you're fearful. There's things going around in your head. There's that little voice that's getting in the way. And then suddenly you get the answer machine and you think, oh, thank Christ, I don't have to do it. I'm going to tick that box and the job's done. Thank Christ. And you do a run around the surgery because you're so happy that you didn't have to do something that you might perceive to be wrong and not in your safe space. So, from my side of things, that's where we do a lot of work, and it shows up, well before somebody approaches you to even have a job.
Fantastic, Tracy. Thank you very much for that insight. So reviews and of course, morning huddle, silence, take that as a signal that, there might be a bit of an authority style going on in your practice. You might not even know it, right?
Absolutely.
I think was really right on when she said that silent disengagement. That's what you want to look for, and that's what you want to engage with. Try to get over that silent disengagement.
Now, I know some practice owners and some people in leadership, they like this. They appreciate the silence. They think everything is running smooth. Is it?
No. No, it is
And
not.
I think in our early days, when all of us would have started working somewhere, we expected to be managed, to be told what to do and all those sorts of things. But now I feel dental teams, they don't want to be managed. They want to be led, and shown down meaningful paths that are fulfilling. And they want to learn and grow. They don't want to just be told what to do. Yeah.
And they want a voice. They want a voice in what's affecting them every day. They want to be able to, I think one of the important things is engage in hiring other people. When you have to hire another team member, the whole team should be involved. This should not be the doctor or the manager's decisions. The whole team, and they have a right to do this because it will change every minute of their work life.
I think it's
No,
about
I'm
guidance
curious.
and direction.
Yeah.
Even if with technology at the moment, if you look at where we're kind of going totally down the wrong path, because some of the actual CRM systems are a plug and play. This isn't Xbox. It's not a PlayStation. In my day, you had a nice welcome pack. It was carefully put together. The patients were sent a beautiful welcome to the practice, and now everybody's got a script that the CRM system is using. So we're being told what to use. We're not even thinking about the patient on the other side, and it's, hey dude, let's talk dental implants. Well,
Mm,
not everybody's going to be, hey, dude, let's talk dental implants. So there needs to be clarity and they need to be guided and directed, because if we're saying one thing, but actually we're doing something completely different based on technology, then, Houston, we've got a problem.
absolutely. Um, yeah. Before I really am, I want to translate this silence, basically, this silent disengagement into a language which practice owners can understand, ROI. So, Sandy, Tracy, I'm curious. Silent disengagement throughout all your meetings, and you're thinking that's great, everyone is listening to me. Uh, why is that not the case? Or perhaps, how is that a crux and not a positive thing?
Well, because it leads to not wanting to volunteer to take on any more responsibilities, not contributing any ideas to the practice. That silence is
Mm,
just kind of a symptom of
mm,
just, I don't care. I just want to go through the motions. I just going to sit here and go through the motions and get a paycheck. I mean, and that will lead to eventually attrition.
mm. There
It's
you
a bit of
go.
a,
Attrition.
I won't say anything because what I say doesn't matter anyway. I don't get heard.
Mhm.
Exactly. So let me try to find a place where I'll be heard.
Exactly.
Might be the next thing on the line. Wonderful. Thank you so much for really translating that, because that's what we're here to do. Now, Amina, which shift in what employee values now has made pay increase a weaker retention tool in practices that still rely on that old management habit?
I think the shift has gone from how much do I earn to how much do I matter? And this is, where the conversation's been heading throughout the last few minutes, hasn't it? And so people are seeking different things, like Sandy said, about lifestyle. They're seeking psychological safety, they're seeking growth. What they're willing to tolerate is very different to perhaps what we would have tolerated many moons ago. I can't see this generation doing it. What I do know is that when they feel purpose and fulfillment and engagement, the pay becomes less relevant. Yeah, we all need a certain amount of money to live and function, and we don't want to be paid peanuts. And I've seen this just quickly with my 16-year-old daughter who wanted to leave school. She doesn't like school. It's not her thing. And I was like, oh God, she might become a bit lazy, if she leaves school. But she's an elite athlete gymnast. She trains like 25 hours a week. And what I've seen, she's left, she's gone to a private beauty college, and all of a sudden she's doing far more than I thought she was going to do. She's doing the training for gymnastics coaching, she's coaching gymnastics, so she's working, training, studying, all the things, and putting in many more hours than what she was doing last year at school. But not just the hours, she's doing stuff that she's thriving, she's growing, she's happy, she's fulfilled, and I'm not pushing her at all. So, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking all these problems we're having in the dental practice with young people who don't want to work hard. I don't think it's the culture of we want to drag our feet and we don't care and we don't want to work hard. I think that what if they're chasing something that has purpose and they're really fulfilled, just like we did, I don't think that part has changed. When we love something
Mm,
and there's a hunger, we'll work for it.
absolutely. Wow. Thanks very much for that analogy as well. Really hitting the nail on the head. How much do I matter?
Mm.
Ooh, yeah. Uh, let's really frame the conversation around that. Sandy, how do you decide between stepping in fast and letting a team member own the problem when service pressure is rising?
Well, I think there in a dental practice, there are always days that go sideways. That's just what happens sometimes. Um, and there are times that the dentist should step in, the leader should step in, and those times are safety, health threats, physical harm, abuse, harassment. If there's a patient who explodes or has a breakdown, yes, the leader should step in, but they need to step in a calm, and controlled way. They need to ask questions before they make any judgments, and they do not demean the team members that they came in and kind of took it over from, and they need to clarify the next step.
Mm,
So basically, when emotions are escalating faster than solutions, that's when the dentist needs to be there. Now,
mhm,
there are a lot of times that the dentist does not need to step in, nor should they step in.
mm,
For instance, if it's one of these team members' routine responsibilities, like a no-show patient or a late patient or empty chair time, that is not the time for the dentist to step in. These team
mm,
members need training to be prepared for this. They are responsible for their duties, and the last thing they need is for you to come in and try to take it away from them, because or try to negate what they have said.
mm,
Now, if your employee is feeling really comfortable, say you see your employee over there and a patient's, coming down on them and they're getting red and nervous and upset, all you need to do sometimes is just stand right next to them, just to
mhm,
give them that little confidence. It's kind of like when you stand next to them, it's like, you got this, girl. You've got this. I know you can handle this. And that's how you teach and coach a team member to carry their responsibilities. Now, one important time you should never step in is if it publicly embarrasses your team. For instance, if you're working over a patient and the dentist gets frustrated with the assistant who's slow, too slow. He's ready to go. He's ready or she's ready to go. And you grab the instrument over the patient and snatch it out of the hand of the assistant. That's very insulting to the assistant. It's so humiliating. The patient knows it, they see it. So you've got to really think about, if, for instance, one thing I see quite often is the front desk tells a patient who's late that, I'm sorry, we can't see you. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to do what we need to do. And the doctor hollers from the down the hall, yeah, just tell her we can fit her in. No, I mean, that is just it. What happens is that the patients learn a very important lesson. Don't ask the team members anything. It's the doctor. You ask the doctor about everything. If the doctor negotiates money, guess who turns into the front desk and the financial? It's the doctor. If the doctor makes appointments outside of the office, at the grocery store, at the church, guess who's now the scheduler? It's the doctor.
mm,
So yeah, it's really important. And all these things, the key thing. Oh, also, one thing you should not step in, and this is very common because dentists sometimes turn into Siri. You just get 1,000 questions all day long, 1,000 questions all day long. Doctors, if they can get this answer themselves somewhere else, coach them how to do this. You know, Sarah, thank you for asking about how you're going to be paid for that CE course. I tell you what, why don't you check our employee handbook and get back with me? And we'll discuss it because I think it's in there and I think it explains it. This is one, of course, one of the most important reasons you need an employee handbook is because it trains your team. They don't have to ask a gazillion questions, and it provides consistency because some dentists will just shoot off the hip and give one team member gets 3 days for her grandmother dying, and the other one just gets a week because her grandmother died. And
right.
this and then they get upset. So training your
Mm, mm.
team with all of these systems, handbooks is and meetings, this is all where it happens.
Absolutely. Wow. A lot there to really unpack, but really appreciate, the very practical guidance you gave us there, Sandy. And I really like how you framed, when emotions are escalating faster than the solutions, that's the, crucial time when a dentist needs to step in.
Mhm.
But I also appreciate when not to step in and really more than when not to. I think what I understood there is how not to,
Yes.
snatching a tool away, like right in
Over a
front of
patient. Yeah, over
over.
a patient. Or reprimanding an assistant. Come on, let's get it going, over a
So
patient.
how can we address those situations when they're happening and like you need that tool quickly?
Yes,
And you,
yes.
how can we address it? Do we address it there and then or?
No, what you'll do is address it afterwards or address it
Oh,
at a one-on-one meeting with the employee. Don't humiliate them in front of everybody else on the team. Or just pull them, just nod your head and pull them outside the treatment room for a second and say, I need you to speed up. Here, we're running late. Can you do that for me? And then go
mm,
back. All it takes is a
mm,
little bonk, bonk of the head,
mm.
and every assistant on this planet knows what that means. We're going to stand outside the hall. But no, that's a good question, Don. Great question.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you, Robert.
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think it brings back so many memories for anyone who's ever been an assistant and sat beside the dentist. Oh, all those things you spoke about, the memories are
It's
flooding back.
very real. I know, it's very real.
And all that happens when you do those things to your team members is their confidence diminishes. How
True.
on earth are we meant to thrive as individuals when people are dampening our confidence all the time? You just sort of become a tortoise, don't you? You just go into your shell. You
You
can't.
do. That's where the silence starts, right
Yeah.
there.
Mm.
Mm.
And that's where
But
growth
also,
stops also.
That's
Go
Yes.
where
ahead,
people
Demi.
can be quite hostile to others, what we're also seeing showing up is when there may not be any words spoken, but it's the environment and the atmosphere, and
Mm.
we're seeing this in reviews when nothing's actually verbally been said, but it's that feeling between the dentist and the assistant that's making the patient feel uncomfortable. So body language is really important as well. And quite often, dentists can be, you know, they lack that self-awareness of understanding. They don't really understand what they've done that's caused the situation.
Oh, that's why meetings, team meetings are so important because that's where you build that trust. That's where you learn to communicate with each other. That's where you resolve these issues. The employee, the team member may say, oh, that was really awkward the other day when that happened. What can I do better? Or how can we communicate about that? You can't resolve this work culture, which is what you're talking about, the environmental culture there unless you have meetings and you sit down and build trust and build relationships.
Absolutely. And what I think when Tracy was mentioning it there, I think, the patients really see that lightning, that tension between the office, can feel
Mhm.
it. And that's just a recipe for, not getting them back into your office again next time around, because no one really wants to be there for the drama.
No,
We're having a toothache. We're scared of the drills. We're already, fearful of the check that's going to come out the bill. So add on to
yes.
that a little bit of tension there, and you're just finding an excuse to not visit the dentist. So really great points there. Let's try to really solve those things, doctors and practice owners alike. Now, Tracy, what decision rule separates a healthy accountability from owner policying when a team wants more autonomy but standards still need holding?
It's very much about these standards and expectation being very clear, very visible, and also owned. So if we take something as simple from the front of house point of view, and also from a clinician's point of view, so it may be that you've been doing some marketing and it's really important that we get these patients through the door. But the expectations on how we do that is it's about helping a patient. That patient, whether they've got a physical pain and they're hurting, or whether they've got an emotional pain and they're embarrassed about their smile, that person is still knocking on your door and asking for some help. And it's how we communicate that expectation to the team so they then don't feel that they've got to be pushy in how they communicate with people. Or with new technology, I see this time and time when I'm on site with practices where there's a new scanner, but
Mm-hmm.
actually the associate's fearful of looking like an idiot because they don't really know how to use it yet. They haven't had the practice. And it's finding that balance, because if they don't actually use it, they're never going to get the practice. But it's also
Mm-hmm.
making them, helping them be safe and confident in how they do that. Or even loom videos, which is quite the norm here in the UK. After somebody's had a treatment plan, they'll get a loom video afterwards. And it's, again, a lot of the clinicians don't like to see their face on the loom video, and they don't have to have their face on the loom video, but it's actually understanding that that patient was probably really nervous when they came in, and they probably didn't take everything in, and they might not actually look completely at a written treatment plan. Whereas if you've actually got, your voice, and, you know, that compassion is coming through on a
Mm-hmm.
video with all the solutions and how you truly want to help and connect with that patient. So it's really being clear on what that standard and expectation is and why we're doing it. And it's not to make people feel uncomfortable or, push them out of their comfort zones, but it ultimately, we're here to help other people who are in pain,
That's right.
physically or emotionally.
That's right. And I'm just wondering, what are your top tips for, really empowering the associate who's afraid of that scanner, that's being communicated and marketed out there. All right, we have, XYZ treatment now, but the associate is just perhaps undertrained. They're not as confident as they could be. So how can we really empower them?
Yeah.
How do we do
Well,
that,
I've seen this
Tracy?
recently in a 9 surgery practice that I'm supporting, and it's finding that balance of challenge and support. Because if there isn't that challenge there, then people are not going to actually do it. But it's sitting
Mhm.
down and having an open, honest conversation. And what is it that's holding you back? What is it that you think is going to happen? And quite often in this particular practice, it was, well, it's taking me too long. What if my photos are not good enough? And again, that's coming from maybe an upbringing, why you're not as successful as your brother. It's not feeling as if I'm good enough. And it's getting the practice in. So in this case, we did a lot of practice with the owner and associate. We did practice in lunch hours, and I'm literally just come back from Yorkshire, and the transformation in some of these associates was, it's almost like being a proud mama. It's,
Mhm.
and the patients, you can just see the relationship, that patient, because I will sit in and I will observe the associates and the reception team and everybody in the practice, so I know what's going on to help and support them. But honestly, the transformation was just, you could burst into tears. It was so nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
You
Having,
see that a lot. Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Amina, go ahead.
You see that a lot in dental practices, don't you? When they buy all this new technology and it sits around forever and a day and nobody wants to touch it. But it is like everything we do, that competence to do something. Um, like dentists, for those of you listening, the first few times you gave LA, I'm sure it was scary. And especially when you got out of uni, went to private practice and you haven't got a supervisor standing next to you and you need to give a block. I'm sure okay, everyone would have to admit that they were a bit nervous until they had done it, maybe 50, 100 times. And the same with us. And it's that repetition, isn't it, in learning that really gives confidence for those things.
It is.
Don't think we're too different, because I don't know about you guys, but the first time I had to stand up and do a presentation, the amount of stuff that was going through my head, and it was really, really hard. And then we had COVID, and then there was this period of time that we haven't been on stage again, and
Yeah,
it's controlling our own emotions, because we're humans too.
That's right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when it
Oh,
comes
and
to adding new technology, one thing that I have found is really powerful and I feel very important is when the dentist starts thinking about this technology, starts
mm,
looking at this technology, the team needs to get involved at that point. They need to be in on it early. They need to
mm,
know what it is, what the differences are, why the doctor feels like it's going to be an asset to the practice and to the patients, and what kind of training they're going to get. Because so many times and I mean, my husband's a dentist, so I have had brand new equipment sitting under our bed for a number of years too. So I learned this the hard way is that you have to get your team engaged with the decision because they'll take ownership of it and they will work very hard. Particularly, they will take pride in learning how to use it if they believe in it. If it's just thrown
mm.
on them, sometimes they'll balk. Sometimes they just won't do it.
They'll be your greatest asset with new technology implementation, won't they? If they're excited, they'll run with it and make it all happen for
Exactly.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. There we go. The
Just the
solutions
patient
are right
journey.
there.
Yeah.
It's the digital patient journey as well as the old, well, I call it the old-fashioned patient journey, but I'm probably showing my age. But at the end of the day, it's just a different way of communicating with somebody.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Getting the team's buy-in on anything, whether it be your equipment, whether it be the way you communicate, seems to hold a great difference maker when it comes to the culture of your practice. Now, Amina, when hiring feels urgent, how do you choose between speed and culture fit with chairs open and the team already stretched thin?
I know this is an important one, isn't it? And I think it's happening everywhere, that kind of pressure. And often when we make decisions under pressure, there's this level of fear that comes, isn't there? And then the fear of, oh my goodness, we don't have enough staff. How are we going to survive? And poor Joan at the front desk is going to be beside herself if we don't hurry up and get someone, and all those sorts of things. And then often that can lead to not making very good decisions. So we think that the solution is getting a hot body in that position as quick as possible. And then
Right.
sometimes we're letting some of our values slip away, um, or maybe not placing the importance on them that we should through this hiring process. And we think that this is going to solve our problem, maybe halve it, when we do a quick hire without doing it thoroughly and based on our values. And then all of a sudden we've doubled the problem. We've got,
Absolutely.
the new person that's walked in the door. They don't align with all our values. We've all the staff in the past, we've told them that, it's been a big thing in this practice. We don't let people just rock up late. We have an expectation. We've always, it's one of our values. We've always been strong about it. And all of a sudden we've got, this new person that's walked in the door and they're getting away with that. But we're putting up with it because we're desperate. We're putting up with
Yeah.
it because um, they're good at everything else and they're fulfilling the role.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, everybody else is getting a little bit venomous about
Mhm.
why they're getting away with that. We haven't been able to do that. And,
Mm.
it deteriorates very, very quickly. So I think those who hire swiftly but stay with their values, it's because they're very strong they know what they are. They're non-negotiables. They know what the non-negotiables are and they've stuck to them. And I think if you can't, recruit based on those values and fulfilling everything else you need within the position, then don't hire. Find other solutions for the interim until you can hire the right fit. And look, it's recruitment at the end of the day. There's not a 100% guarantee. We're going to mess it up sometimes. Some people are very good at being interviewed. Some people are very good on paper. Some people are award-winning Grammy actors. So, um, but, you know, we can eliminate the amount of mistakes we make in the recruitment process if we do things well. And I think we shouldn't be pushed by the urgency. We should just do the job thoroughly. And in the meantime, it may mean leaning onto other resources like some casual staff that we have somewhere, staff within the facility that we can maybe ask to do a couple of extra shifts, those kind of things. Or we might have some temp agencies that we can lean on.
Mm.
But if you can stick to your guns, follow a really good process, find the right people, not just try and put a body in the chair or what have you, and use interim measures, I think that's probably a better way to go because we want to keep the rest of the team happy too. And if they understand that, we want you guys to be happy, we want you to be part of this process. We don't want somebody to come in here and disrupt the apple cart, so to speak. They'll probably, you'll find if you've got a good team, they'll be pretty on board with it, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. Now, that team, I'm just kind of curious. Now, they're taking on a bit of extra work, filling in for this empty space while you're doing the hiring, trying to find that person, who fits the value. Now, I'm just wondering if they're doing already a good job without, you needing to fill up the vacant position, and you feel like, you know what? Uh, Overhead's the same, but now we are seeing an increase in our production because we have one less salary to pay. Let's not hire anyone. Let's just run it with the team we have right now. What do you think is the long-term impact for such a decision?
Well, the team can get pretty dirty, like um, you're expecting us to fulfill all of this. Your bottom line's going to be healthier. We're working harder. What are we going to get out of this? Are we getting a piece of that pie? All these sorts of things. And I think then, okay, we can give them a piece of the pie, but are we going to burn them out?
Hmm.
So if you're on a good thing, I think you got to think very carefully about making that kind of decision or transition. Mm.
Right, right. And really understand that this is a temporary solution, you know,
Yes.
until
Yeah.
I find the right person. Okay, check.
And I've been through times like that, and I've sent staff, at the end of the week, made them cut off a couple of hours early, sent them all for a pedicure, given them
Wow.
bonuses to get through that period to really thank them, for their extra contributions. But I think to expect that long term, I think depending on the situation, you've got to be very realistic and very careful about that. Mm.
Check. All
Also, are
right.
you actually staying true to your values? One
Mm.
hand,
Mm,
you're wanting, the team to share your values, and on the other hand, it's a completely different story. So, it's okay to have a set of written values, but it's something completely different to actually live and breathe them.
Mm.
check.
That's very, very true, Tracy. A very important part of the answer too, I think.
A lot of the team members I've interviewed said they were leaving their current position because of that, because they're shorthanded. They've been shorthanded. Everybody's expected to do too much and
Mm,
no reward for it. And they don't see an end to it. That's a very common complaint I hear.
And I'm
wow.
getting to
Very.
the space, like in our day, I think if the practice owner said, I'm going to give you, an extra $100 a week, can you do stretch yourself a bit more? I would have done it, but I think this generation is probably a bit more educated than us, and that they're not willing to, destroy their mental health and their health and all these things for the sake of a few extra dollars.
There we go. We're back to that first answer about balance, which Sandy mentioned. Absolutely. It's
Exactly.
it's the main shift that we're seeing in the past decade. People really want
Yes.
that balance. Life is
Yeah.
indeed too precious to be hanging on until, you get your never finding replacement. So
Mm.
find that replacement. It's a temporary solution. Now, before we move on, I do have something really awesome to share with everyone here. Right. Check. There we go. So looking at who registered today, we have owners here from Cali, Connecticut, the UK, Canada, Australia, all over the world, really. You're running a different practice in different markets, but the questions you had submitted to us, which we will get to in a minute, um, we're of a similar vein. A practice manager wanted to know how to delegate without dropping the ball. A couple of practice owners wanted to know where AI fits. And of course, an owner dentist was thinking about positioning their practice for the next chapter, along with a couple others on working on culture from the inside. Now, here's what every one of those questions really has in common. They're all easier to solve when the practice is growing. Leadership is harder when chairs are empty. Delegation is harder when cash flow is tight. Exit value is impossible without traffic. So we're doing something for everyone on this call, a free 60-minute practice growth strategy session. So a real audit of where new patient flow is leaking, a real 90-day plan tailored just to your practice. Normally, this is a $900 valued session, complimentary for everyone here on this call. So you can go ahead and scan that QR code you're seeing on your screen, or else check the chat for a direct link to book a time this week. Now, our team will make sure that every owner here who wants to get one will get one of those slots. And if you're here in as a vendor or a consultant capacity, thank you so much for joining in. We'd love to stay in touch. And if you ever have a practice owner friend who'd benefit, the links work for them too. So go ahead and book that session with Equa. It'll be time well spent. Now let's get into some of the questions that you have submitted to us here for this event. As well as if you do have any questions, I think I see a question here. Okay, what's this? There's been a lot of bashing for dentists. I've been trying. Okay, so yeah, we're going to dedicate a couple of minutes to answer your questions now, as well as some of the questions from our registrants. We'll start off one with which has been submitted to our Q&A session over here section. There's been a lot of bashing for dentists. I've been trying for years to develop the team, taking them to leadership conferences, holding weekly meetings, etc. The issue I see is that they don't see anything wrong with how they are. They don't want to understand the differences between their personalities and how to work together. This is a very interesting, I think it's more of a statement, but let's put it to a question. How can we show our team members, how can we hold the mirror to our team so that they can see where they're lacking and really find our encouragements towards CE as an empowering move and not something that we're saying, you're lacking this and sort of critique in a sense. I'm opening this to the whole panel. Tracy, would you like to go and have a
Sure.
gander at this?
So I think, first of all, I think you've got to align your own expectations, because quite often I'm going into a practice where they have been on a conference or they've been on a one-day workshop. You're not going to change mindsets in one day. So I think, you've got to really think about what your expectations are from this, and have you even spoken to your team on the reason that you're taking them to the conference or the workshop, and what your expectations are following that. I think it's also about, you've got to be really clear. The first question I will ask the team when I rock up for the first session will be, so what have you been told today? And why am I here? And quite often, 8 out of 10 times, it will be, I saw your name in the diary. And the clinician or the owner is actually fearful of saying too much in case the team don't show up on the day. So I think, first of all, we've got to be clear in how we're communicating to people. And with the way I work, that first session is all about personal development. It's about them understanding themselves, their triggers, their emotions and how they manage those. There are questionnaires, there are personality assessments, but it's made fun. Quite often at the end of that morning session, before we kind of put it together into how that actually blends into the patient journey, is, oh my God, Tracy, if you've got crystal ball, it's a case of, or one I had recently was like, oh my God, I'm going to take this home and tell my dad. You're just telling me everything that my dad told me, but I didn't listen to what my dad was telling me. But the way
Mm,
you've explained it, it makes sense. So
mm,
I will only work with, well, I've got the two ways of working with me. It's either a 12-month program or it's a
mm,
team building day, but you're not going
mm,
to drive that change in one day. And it'd be foolish to think that you are. You don't train for a marathon in one day.
mm. Absolutely. And I think that's a critical point over there, really showing your team member how their performance is affecting the customer journey and showing that, okay, this is how we can really adjust it so that the patient journey, their experience becomes fabulous because that's what we want at the end of the day, right? The patient to have a great experience. Um, Sandy, do you
We
have
don't
anything
help
to
the
add on to
patient.
this?
We don't
Oh,
help
And
the
help the,
patient.
absolutely.
oh, well, I totally endorse the time. It does take time. But first, I want to make sure that everybody understands that, at least from my point of view, I've worked in dentistry for almost 44
30.
years now. I've been married to a dentist for 50 years. I think there's some of the most conscientious and generous people on this planet, and that's why I love to work with them. Some of the examples we give are just extreme examples, just to make a point. I've seen them all. It does happen because what happens is when you get under stress, when people get under stress, they behave differently. We
Mm,
all do.
mm,
Our behavior
mm,
is affected by our environment, our genetics, and this stress level. So I think we can all of us do things, even everybody in the planet, under stress, we act differently. But I think that one thing is important with your team and your example about how frustrating it is because they don't seem to be getting engaged is one of my favorite leadership skills is learning to ask the right questions in an environment where they feel safe to answer. So first you have to create this safe space where they feel heard and they feel listened to. And it takes time. Just as she mentioned, it takes time and repetition over and over. And then learning to ask questions like, so what if you point out to one of your team members, what is the biggest challenge you have in your job right now? What can I do to make you more successful in your position and your job? What can we all do? Share with us. These kind of questions will bring out things that maybe, if you go to something and listen, do you sit down and talk about it afterwards? I know so many times we would take our team to the Hinman. We'd all go to different courses. We'd love it. We'd have a blast. And we'd come back and then we'd get right back to work. And we never sat down until a few times afterwards. We realized we never sat down and really shared what we learned and talked about how we could make it work in our practice.
absolutely. I
Think,
think yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people, even the people whom you work with that see it every day, really forget what it's like to work in a space this big all
Yes.
day, bent over a chair, how intense it is, and what you've got left after that to spend on everyone else, like emotionally and mentally. But I think one of the key things, and I have a lot of respect for dentists with the role they do, and it's bloody hard yakka. It's not easy. I look at my dad, who was a GP, with his stethoscope and his script pad. It was a much easier day-to-day exercise, from my perspective anyway, from the outside looking in. But I think what happens a lot in my experience, is that what the dentist needs and wants from his team and what his vision is and what his values are not clearly defined and communicated with the team. I know so many
Mm,
times I've thought that I knew what they wanted and what they needed and get the place busier and they can work an extra day and make more money. And they're like, hell no. Actually, I was wanting to work 3 days and play golf on the other two. So for many reasons, this kind of communication is important. But the other thing I think with team members, if they don't understand all of that, is they may have their own personal awareness journey that they just do not understand, and that might be for us, we might think it's common sense, but for them, they may need somebody in there explaining to them, taking them down that road, and they will be able to see the differences within themselves, within other team members, and understand everybody more so. I know when you've done I've done certain things like disc profiling or things like that, those
Mm,
kind of self-awareness exercises. They just open your mind a little bit more about accepting everybody and everybody's contribution, how everybody behaves. And then the other thing is that alignment. Are the people on your bus the right people to be on the bus with you? Maybe they're not.
mm, mm.
And then that ongoing coaching, I think if you're really trying to have big shift and change, is really important. It's like going to a personal trainer once or twice, or to a workshop with a personal trainer a couple of times and expecting this dramatic change. We need that accountability, we need that follow up. And, Dr. Smith can come and say, I'm still having this issue, and we can work on it, consistently.
Right.
And same with the team members. Yeah.
So really understanding where your team is coming from, taking the time really to
Mm.
put on their lenses for a change,
And
because
vice versa. Yeah.
and helping them to vice
Mm.
versa.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to ask one other question, which one of our registrant here, a dentist owner had asked. I am 3 to 4 years from retirement. How can I position my practice to be attractive to a buyer? I do not want a lengthy transition. Hmm. Amina, would you like to start?
Oh, well, I mean, if there's so many angles to look at this. I mean, are we looking at, like, from a financial perspective? Obviously, we need numbers to stack up and make it look like a good offering. And then if you can have the team and culture be really good and they're part of it, systems and processes are huge. Um, Nobody wants to walk into a nightmare. If you can walk into a place that's working like clockwork, that is amazing. And it's profitable and the team's good and all those sorts of things. That's what makes the journey, the buy attractive, I think.
Sandy, Tracy, would you have some insight on this? How can we
Yes.
make the
Well, first of
transition?
all,
Naturally,
Oh,
naturally they're
my
going to
apologies.
want,
Go ahead, Tracy.
from a financial point of view, so that there's going to be growth there. And if it's all on one person that's delivering that clinical dentistry and that person's going, then obviously that's going to, throw up some holes. But also, the biggest headache is the team. And the last thing that they want, or the biggest headache can be the team. You've come in as a new
Mm,
owner, and now people are actually leaving because they're fearful of that change. So also
mm,
it's about being able to demonstrate um, that the team are following those processes, and they're comfortable following those processes. I mean, one of the biggest areas I think everybody needs to be looking at, because it's the biggest area of improvement I see when I go into practices, and that is the actual induction. And if we get that bit right, it really does take the headache out of everything else.
check.
Love
Sandy,
that.
you had something to add in there?
well, first of all, I want to applaud this dentist for thinking 3 years ahead about this. I mean, you could even use 5 years, but at least it's 3 years and not waiting to the last moment, because you need to get your numbers as high as your potential. Because of course we sold our practice in 2010, so I've been through this whole process. I know what you have to do, and it does take a number of years. You've got um, to do everything to build your practice, because the bank will ask for 2 to 3 years of your numbers, all of your data from your practice. And so you need to get your team highly trained. You need to get your operating systems working smoothly. Follow those monitors, those practice monitors and figures, every month, and get it up to the point where the bank will recognize the value
Mm,
of your practice and potential buyers will. Because it's a two-way road. The bank's got to approve the loans, and the people have got to be attracted to it. So
mm,
I think bringing someone in to help you reach your potential and maintain it until that moment of sale is going to give you the best returns for your practice, and you can take the time to find the person you feel is right for your practice because you've got something valuable to sell. I know how important that is. When you have nurtured a practice all your life, you take a lot of pride in it. And those relationships with your patients are like family. And you want to bring somebody in that they feel like that you cared about the patients when you did that. So I totally understand that point of view.
and yeah, absolutely. I think that one last part in this question was the doctor did not want to have a lengthy transition. A lengthy transition.
Lindy transition.
Yeah,
Mm.
they want it to be immediate turnkey. So, are there any tips for that to make it as short as possible?
Well, my husband worked 2 weeks after we sold the practice.
Oh, wow.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very possible to do that. He agreed to work until all his crowns were placed, which was about all his prostheses were placed with 2 weeks. Of course, we didn't have a brand new dentist that we brought on. We didn't have, but the dentist that did buy our practice was an experienced dentist and knew what he was doing. And we took the time to make sure he did. And he sat down with our whole team and went over the systems, all of the systems. So it was just a matter of 2 weeks. So it does not have to stretch out. It's really up to the seller. In fact, yeah, it's totally up to the seller as to what how long he or she wants to stay.
That's truly amazing. Because I think that's a record I've heard during our discussions here, because it'll usually be a couple of months at best.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
two
it's really
weeks.
great to know that it's possible. If you,
Yeah, it's and lengthy transitions can be a little bit like cutting off one finger at a time, can't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. So now we have arrived at the top of the hour here, and it has been a wonderful discussion. So before we wrap things out, I want to get a key takeaway from each of our panelists. What is the one thing a practice owner must stop doing tomorrow if they want to keep their best staff? 30 seconds or less. Let's start with you, Tracy.
I think what I would encourage everybody to do as a takeaway is actually Google their business from a team person's perspective. So you're sharing your
Mm,
Google reviews with your team, but what are people saying about you? What are your reviews about what it's like to work in your environment? Um, because very few people do that. And I think that will be very, very telling, and that will give them an action plan.
great. Usually we're only thinking about the patient's experience with regards to the review, but now yeah, you got to really think about your staff, how they're looking at those reviews as well, and potential staff coming in. So thanks, Tracy, for that wonderful takeaway. Amina?
I guess you said, what should they stop doing? Maybe stop thinking you know what's going on for your staff. Stop assuming. Because I think we all do this maybe in our relationships with our partners, with our friends, with our kids. We assume a lot of things as people, don't we? And so we assume that we're happy or we assume that they're unhappy or and staff surveys can be a wonderful way of, getting further insights depending on the size of the team. I mean, if you're trying to do them anonymously and you've got two staff members, well, that may not work so well. It might be more regular one-on-one meetings to get a little bit more feedback. But if you've got a bigger team, that can be a wonderful way. Otherwise, that regular contact, a discussion, and check in with the team, I think, is imperative to the success of the culture.
Love that. Thank you very much, Amina. Let's stop assuming, let's start asking better
Yeah.
questions. Um, Sandy,
I
what
think
are
I,
we
I
going to
think I
stop
would
doing?
say, stop thinking that the clinical focus is the highest level of focus you need to have. Nowadays, it's as leadership is as important as clinical skill. I know that's not what you were trained for, but when you have a business in this current world, and we've talked about all the changes, I think the time has come now where those two have to be equally important in a dentist's life. Only.
Perfect.
What a critical takeaway that was, Sandy. Thank you so much for that. We really got to stop. I mean, not stop, but let's start thinking as a business owner and not just a dentist only, because you are more than that. You have signed up to be a business owner now. So let's start thinking like one as well. So this has truly been an incredible session. If you missed the link earlier, please take advantage of Equa's free marketing strategy meeting. It's the best way to ensure patients you want are finding your practice. So the link is in the chat one last time for you to go ahead and book that. With that being said, as you exit this session, please take 30 seconds to fill out that pop-up survey that'll help us keep. I got way too excited for the feedback survey, but that's where we really get to know how this event went. So it's really important to us to know, and of course, it'll help us improve our events so that we can deliver even more value to you next time around. A huge thank you goes out to Tracy Stewart, Sandy Baird, and Amina Basil for sharing your brilliance here tonight. To our attendees, go ahead and lead with influence and not just authority. It's been my pleasure and privilege to host this session tonight. Dana Disha signing off on behalf of Trying Dentist. We'll see you on the next expert panel. Good night, everyone. Or good
Thanks,
morning,
Don.
good
Thank-
afternoon. I know we have.
That's right. Thank you, Don. Thank all the participants too.
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you, guys.
Nice to meet you all.
You too,
Absolutely.
Tracy.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.